Star Wars talk with some of my favorite Star Wars fans and friends. I'm here in our Force Ghost mode. Do some technical problems, but yeah, let me introduce my guests all the way from across the ditch. Mr. Ben Neal, aka Darth Neal. Then of course we have Mr. Clone Wars himself, Thomas Woodfield, joining us. Who is your favorite Star Wars character of all time? I'm gonna go Obi-Wan.
Why? Why is that, Ken? Oh man. Have you got one, Thomas? I'm still thinking.
Yeah, I struggle with this one because some characters I've seen for a lot of hours, because obviously from the TV shows, I've seen those characters a lot more than the movie characters, but somehow the movie characters still mean more, if that kind of makes sense. Yeah. So I think for me, I would also go Obi-Wan, just because we get to see so much of him across Clone Wars and the movies. He's obviously in 6 of the movies plus a voice in one of them, but then also he's in all of Clone Wars basically. That adds a lot of depth that is not in the movies as well. So it's a good kind of blend for me of TV and movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Obi-Wan's definitely one of my favorites, but the first person that came into my head is actually, oh wait, sorry, wrong side. This guy. I don't know, I kind of hate the prequels, to be completely honest with you. I'm I don't hate them, but I have very strong feelings about them. I'm definitely an original trilogy and even new trilogy kind of guy.
Yeah.
But there's just something about Qui-Gon, I don't know. It's Liam Neeson, he's God in 2 movies. And I think in Star Wars, I just like that he always wanted to go with the will of the Force, and he didn't want to, there was the politics involved with the Jedi Council and the rules and regulations, but he just was kind of nah. But I just appreciate that he kind of played dirty, but it was for a good cause. And I kind of feel like if he got to train Anakin, that the
things would have been so different.
The entire story arc would have looked completely different. I feel like hard, because we see a lot in the Clone Wars, which I don't know if we'll get into. But we do see it in the prequels too, how Anakin's quite rebellious towards Obi-Wan and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like Qui-Gon would have been able to connect with him on that level without the rules and regulations, but just on more of a moral thing. Because Anakin did have good morals. He just was swayed. Unfortunately, Palpatine was stronger than what Obi-Wan could be or whatever. But I feel like Qui-Gon would have been more in touch with the Force than the rules and the war. And I don't know. But I just love
we'll never know.
We'll never know, man.
I guess we'll, but I agree. He is an absolute badass of a character, and I love
so
Qui-Gon.
Awesome.
All right, legit. Now we're going worst Star Wars character.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm definitely going with Jar Jar.
Just to give an answer, maybe I'll just say Rose. But again, I don't hate her. I just she's the worst of a bunch of good characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will go Jar Jar. I think it was just ridiculous, stupid, and just the fact that he becomes a senator, doesn't he become a senator?
Cracks me up to no end. It's hilarious.
I think it's a joke. What color would your lightsaber be if you had one and you were in the Star Wars galaxy? I'm gonna
say, ooh,
Darth Stevenson.
Ooh, okay,
red.
Darth Stevenson. All right.
Why red, man? Why red? We know you're a dark, cynical, negative sort of guy, but why red?
I just I don't know. I just think that I would be a Sith. I just think Kylo's lightsaber in particular is just the most badass looking thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I am gonna come out and say yellow.
So I'm gonna go green.
Wait.
I just think it looks really cool, right? I just think when Luke gets the green lightsaber, it's that's cool. I feel like it was fresh and it was different when you saw that green for the first time.
If you could live on any planet in the Star Wars universe, which planet would you live on?
Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit left field and say, for those of you who have played Fallen Order, Bogano, that like chill as kind of swampy place.
Sick.
But I think my main place would be Alderaan or Coruscant. I'm a city guy, so
okay, yeah.
You know.
If I was a fish, I'd go Mon Calamari because that'd be dope.
That'd be wild.
But I think I'm gonna go. Honestly, I think I'm gonna go Naboo because it's actually really nice. Freaking, wouldn't you want to just roll around with Hayden Christensen in the grass, like the long grass?
Yes, I would.
I would love that. Mandalore would like in when Mandalore was.
Okay, you're tempting me now. Okay.
It could have been dope because it was like really cool architecture. Hey, like the city vibe, like
back before like everyone started killing each other and then everyone started attacking it for like 60 years.
I think I'm gonna go Alderaan.
Yo.
Because they're peaceful and they have no weapons. Favorite lightsaber duel? I think overall I will choose Episode 1.
Duel of the Fates.
Duel of the Fates.
Come on. I am gonna have to do like a top 3 because I won't be able to pick just one. Yeah, I know. Shut up, Keenan. Okay, leave me alone. So, in no particular order, Return of the Jedi, Luke vs. Vader.
Yeah,
that gets me fired up every time. My second one is Luke and Kylo on Crate. Number 3, Ahsoka vs. Vader on Malachor.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Episode 6.
Off the top of your head, because I know it's too big a question to answer, but what's kind of a favorite moment of yours overall? Just one that comes to mind now, because we're not going to be able to accurately get your answer in under an hour.
Okay, when you see Thor's hammer like rattling, you think, oh, Thor's gonna get it back, and then it goes to
shut up, bro.
Oh my God. One of them is actually when they do the force transfer of the lightsaber in Episode 9.
Yes, that's wild.
I genuinely love that. I was like, thank you, because it actually made. I appreciated it. I'm sure we'll get into the new trilogy, so I don't want to go there too hard now, but I just appreciated that JJ took that from 8 and was like that transfer thingy that they've got. I'm going to build on that. Not to just be like, oh, it's a cool thing that happens, but like, not just like getting wet or getting dust on you, but like transferring a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like, that was
and it was built up to really well as well.
Yeah,
with the really with that fight when Rey's on Pisana and they're like the beads are like spilling onto the Star Destroyer and stuff. Like they really built it up well.
Yeah, they did. And then it actually got to where it needed to get. So I think that was dope.
Yeah.
Also another moment, which I don't know if you would have seen this, Keenan. Have you seen the Obi-Wan and Darth Maul battle from Rebels?
I have actually seen that. Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen like the whole episode, but I've seen just that fight.
Yeah. So it's really cool. You guys probably know this because you're nerds.
Don't get Thomas going on this, man. He'll get going. He loves Darth Maul.
That moment when I know the battle itself was kind of anticlimactic, but in a good way. Like I kind of appreciated how quick it was. I wasn't like that was ridiculous. I was like, wow, that was quick, but it sort of makes sense. But when Obi-Wan sort of goes from like, his like, peace stance that he used to do.
Yeah. The old.
He goes from that, but then he goes like this, and he goes into like new Obi-Wan territory, right? Because we've had like Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan for so long, and then we have this Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and they're like pretty different. But that moment was like, it was like him going, okay, this is who I used to be, but now this is who I'm going to be. And then he just takes me like that. And that was a really cool moment for me to go, all right, I can see old Obi-Wan. I mean, like I can see, young Obi-Wan, and I can see old Obi-Wan just in like a split second of him changing stance. I don't know if he's going from position 3 to position 7 or whatever, form 7 to form whatever, but I don't know, you probably know. That was really cool.
Forms.
Yeah.
No, I've refused out of principle to ever look into forms. I don't want to know. Don't know, don't care.
I have heard you talk about that though, so.
Well, sort of.
Maybe you've pulled yourself back since then.
Very, very
good. Okay.
I'm definitely gonna go the end of Episode 3 when Padme dies and when the kids are born. I just think it kind of just like, I think they, for all the for all the crap about the prequels that everyone picks on, I do think that he did the turn well. You know what I mean? Like, how do you go from innocent little boy who's very kind and loving to like killing younglings?
Yeah, younglings.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense of like it is for love, and his lust of power is out of a sense of love and fear of loss. Really, that I do think it's a really realistic thing that drives him to that. But I think that moment's just quite special and very emotional. Of you know,
definitely.
She dies, like he's turned, and you know it's all for nothing because she dies, and he was deceived, and then also like, you know, Luke and Leia as infants, so, you know, young and innocent. I think that's one of my favorite moments.
But in the Clone Wars, where Maul's like pretty much he's the man, he's taken over Mandalore, and he's like you know, in his mind he's the boy, and then he senses his old master, he senses Palpatine, and you just see him like that was like such a scene. It came
that was wild.
I've seen it.
Oh, that was an amazing moment, man. I was like, you just like got shivers, like holy crap. Palpatine's his old master, like he senses him, and all of a sudden he goes from like king of the hill to like little boy. You know what I mean?
I've got two moments.
Of course, that's fine. You go for it.
And part of the thing that makes a moment really, really good in my eyes is the surprise factor. Because like I'm the type of film or TV watcher who's very in the moment. Like I know people who are always like, oh, I reckon this is going to happen later on and stuff. Whereas I'm always caught in the moment, and I'm watching exactly as it's unfolding on screen. I'm never thinking about how it's going to play out. And so for me, surprise is one of the biggest factors. And for me, Snoke dying and the lightsaber, you know, going into her hand, and then that fight from there that blew me away.
I hated that.
Really? Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, sorry,
all right, we can't go. We'll talk about the Sequel Trilogy later.
Quickly going back to one of the first questions, our favorite Star Wars character. One of them, I got to say, I forgot to mention him, was Thrawn. His
Oh no! He's getting going now.
Oh no!
Can you even see that? There you go.
He loves Thrawn, man.
he's actually so dope. We won't talk about it now.
Yeah, he's epic.
First Star Wars memory, or like, when was the moment where you really got into Star Wars? My first memory when I became a Star Wars fan, I was super young. I think I was 4 or 5, and they'd re-released the remastered originals in the kind of late 90s, and my old man took me to see A New Hope, like the remastered version, in the cinema. Right. And I remember just loving it instantly, just instantly. So, and I remember that moment as well. So little cheesy special father and son bonding moment as well there. But yeah, that's what I was hooked from a very, very young age.
For me, my love for Star Wars absolutely started with Lego, 100%. And I knew every single character and every single set before I'd seen any of the movies. And so I was always aware of Star Wars, even though I'd never seen it. And then when I was about, I'm going to say 8 or 9, my mum and dad borrowed the 6 movies on DVD from my mate's place. And we watched one every single day. And I just remember it. They forced me to watch it, original trilogy first. And I complained because I was like, no, we got to watch it starting with number 1. But I was glad they did. And my parents wouldn't let me watch the scene in Revenge of the Sith when Anakin's burning. They wouldn't let me watch it because it was too scary. And so,
Mom,
yeah, I think,
Mom, let me watch it.
Mom, you're breaking my heart, Mom.
But it actually wasn't until 2015 that Force Awakens trailer came out. And over the course of that year, I got back into Star Wars.
I will say that probably 2015 was probably the year that it went from like, I really like Star Wars to like, I freaking love Star Wars.
The funny thing is those all the introductory questions, right? Which were meant to take like 5 minutes, and they took like 40.
40.
Okay, order of the Skywalker saga, from best to worst at the moment, because it's too hard to answer it. Change.
I go worst to best.
Yeah, you can go worst to best.
Is it okay? Is it on a technical level what you think how good the movies are, or is it your personal enjoyment?
Personal.
Personal enjoyment.
And I'm gonna go. This is from top to bottom, so my favorite to least favorite. I actually go 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
7, 9.
Yeah.
3, 8, 1, and then 2. Clones is my least.
Wild.
Clones is my least favorite, but yeah. Originals for me, I think I do think 5 is the best, but I think it's a bit of nostalgia there for me with 4.
Yeah, with
first
4,
one I saw, I think it's just such an amazing adventure story. So yeah, I'm going 4, 5, 6, and then 7. A lot of it's to do with the emotion around 7.
Yeah.
That was a big year for everyone getting back into Star Wars, and that was the best, one of the best experiences I had of actually watching it. The hype in the moment. I loved 9, and we'll get into the details of the sequels and stuff, but I think they did a good job with it personally.
You want me to go, Thomas?
Yeah, you go.
Thomas will take about half an hour to come up with his one.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to start with least favorite and work my way through. Least favorite is 1 and 2 tied. Next is 3. So just, again, prequels for me are the 3 worst and 3 least enjoyable for me. Then I'm going to go 8 to 4. 6, 9, my favorite is 5. 5 is my favorite, which is probably everyone's favorite. It's really well done. I love Hoth.
Universally, it's the best. It is one of the best movies of all time. Rating.
It really is. It's really well done. I love seeing brothers and sisters kiss. It's one. No, but
I understand you a bit better now.
And obviously, second favorite is 7.
Yeah.
And honestly, on a different day, it would be my favorite because probably due to the nostalgia in this case.
That's the nostalgic one for you. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. Okay, 5, 7, 9, 6, 4, 8, 3, 1 and 2 tied.
We both have 2 at the bottom, 2 and 1.
That was 40 minutes on my answer. Sorry.
Your bottom 4 is 1, 2, 3, 8, and my bottom. Your bottom 4 is 2, 1, 3, 8. Mine is 2, 1, 8, 3. We have the same bottom 4.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe
it. 5 is your favorite, and 5 is my second favorite. So
yeah,
we kind of have quite similar.
Going from bottom to top, I am also 2, 1.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same in that regard. But then you guys are gonna crack up. My next 2 are A New Hope and The Force Awakens.
What?
I know. For me, so once you he's gone. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll now beg for my forgiveness. 9. I am an absolutely diehard Last Jedi fan. For days, it's my number 1. It's actually my favorite Star Wars movie. And I'm sorry, Ben. I actually hate to do that to you. Here he goes. Oh dear.
Nothing but
and for me, part of the reason that
no, it rears its head.
No.
It's the song that never dies. Even in the Star Wars book. I love it. I'll never live that one down. Anyway, Thomas, you go. So 9. Yep.
And part of the reason why I find 9 difficult and put it lower than you guys is because for me, a lot of the reason why I love The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I get it.
is the stuff that it sets up.
I'm playing you.
I know, you always do this. It's the stuff that it sets up. For me, Kylo being the supreme leader, being what Vader couldn't be. Because Vader was always Palpatine's dog. Kylo's risen above that, and he's now the top dog. And the fact that they just ignore that and bring back Palpatine, I find that difficult, partially because of my nostalgia for The Last Jedi.
They had to bring Palpatine back as the big bad. It's one continuous story, one continuous saga. You can't have Palpatine as the big bad from 1 to 6.
Are we going to get into this?
Being a kid from 7 to 9,
Are we going to get into this?
Hmm?
Are we going to get into this?
No, we'll park it. We'll park it because we're getting.
If Palpatine
I always have to let him know that.
If Palpatine had been involved in 7 and 8, it would have been great. He wasn't. That's the important part for me. He wasn't at all.
It's okay.
And
You're young. You don't understand.
For me, the story of the sequel trilogy was Kylo rising to be the Supreme Leader. And I find 9 difficult, even just for that one decision. And like obviously there's other stuff in that debate, but that's all I'm going to say about the Rise of Skywalker. I think
we'll get into the sequels later. We'll get into it later.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, my next one is Return of the Jedi. I love that movie to death. Next, Revenge of the Sith.
And then you go 5 and then 8.
Yeah.
We all have episodes 1 and 2 at the bottom.
And I just feel
there are a few prequel fan friends we have that won't be too happy with that, but
I feel that I have a right just to quickly explain to Ben, who's now crying, why I love The Last Jedi so much. I'm not going to ramble.
Okay, now that we've got the order, let's get into the actual talk about the sagas.
Oh my gosh. Wow, Ben, that's so funny, bro. Oh my gosh.
Sitting on like one of Thomas's favorite scenes.
I'm actually crying inside right now.
Dark side all of a sudden.
Sorry.
Let's talk about our overall feeling on the sequels.
I think something that sets me apart from you two is that for me, I feel like the sequel trilogy is let down by 7 and 9. Whereas like for you guys, it's let down by 8. And so that's kind of where we fall on different sides of it.
But that shows that both of the different views we have show the same thought, that we're all unhappy with the overall trilogy. You know what I mean? So the fact that whether you stand on the you love 8, don't like the rest, or the other way around, whichever view you have on that relates to the overall topic of the lack of consistency between them, which is what I'm the most unhappy about. This is why for me it fundamentally comes down to the fact that I would have liked them to have planned out the whole storyline from the get-go, and to have had one person or 2 people doing that, because all the problems we have can be pointed back to the fact that of the inconsistencies. You know what I mean? It's just like, so my personal opinion, which, you guys, we can debate about this, and if we end up finishing on different, that's fine. But like, to me, I didn't mind that they brought back Palpatine, because, it was either, in my mind, it was either going to be Snoke as the big overarching bat, because the way they positioned him was like he was the one pulling the strings from the unknown regions for the whole saga.
Yeah, I agree.
So then when they killed him, and no, you can argue your points soon. I can see, but just let me finish.
Yeah,
if that's possible.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah. Facts.
But it's like they set Snoke up as the one who was, and when we first heard about him, we were like, wow, there's this, because they're using the word ancient. That says to me that he was the one pulling the strings, was above Palpatine and the order of bads. They set him up as the one who's been the big bad throughout the entire time. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I like the idea that it's been one villain pulling the strings for the whole saga. Yeah. So when they kill him, I personally, now this is just a point of difference, I personally don't like the idea of Kylo rising to be the big bad, because then it's only isolating the sequel series, the sequel trilogy, and it's kind of separating that from the original 6. Where
I'm totally happy to concede that. That is a very valid point.
That's why I argue for that. So that's why I don't mind the fact that they're going, okay, now we're going to JJ said, okay, I'm going to switch back, bring back Palpatine, and paint him as being the big bad all along, which then they make Snoke irrelevant. So then it kind of feels like, I'd say, oh, okay, we thought Snoke was going to be this big bad. Turns out he was a puppet, and it's been Palpatine the whole time. I can live with that because to me that makes sense of the whole saga. Thomas, you've talked about how he said all these contingency plans put in place. So he was ready for pretty much every scenario that had come up. So I don't mind the fact that he was the big bad. But then again, it goes.
I actually do agree with you.
But that's why it goes back to my point of if they just had a consistent storyline.
Yeah.
And people argue that, well, when they were doing 4, 5, and 6, he didn't know where the story was going to go.
It definitely wasn't planned out.
But George Lucas was writing and producing and overseeing. He was on set. It wasn't like the way that they did it with the sequels, which was like, all right, choose your writing team. You're the new director. Go for it. It was like, no, this is my baby, and you can direct it, so I can have your sort of stylistic approach, and we can have something new and something fresh. And what do you want to bring to it? But I know where this story is going, so I think you're 100% right, Keenan.
My overall position on the sequel trilogy is, obviously we're still on the that's the taste we have in our mouth still.
Yeah.
But to me, it's kind of, I've loved a lot of moments within the sequel trilogies, and I like them, and I don't dislike them as much as the prequels. I just wish they'd kind of planned ahead from the start, or at least if they were going to do it movie by movie, give it to one person.
The way I feel about Palpatine is that him coming back in 9 is actually totally fine. Like, I've never had a problem with him coming back, and actually, I was excited for it. I was like, this is going to be awesome. For me, it's like everything that happens has to do something interesting for the characters. That's what keeps people coming back to the original trilogy, is the fact that stuff happens to the characters that we care about, and we care about their relationships with each other, and we care about their internal struggles. And for me, The Last Jedi does the best job at capturing people's internal struggles. Like, bringing Palpatine back raises a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. Like, okay, him and Kylo, like, how are they going to jockey for power? Because Kylo has seized power, and he's not just going to give it up. But he just kind of does, and they don't go into that. That's just an example of, like, how I feel about it. Like, whether or not you like what happened with Luke and Kylo in the hut, that's kind of irrelevant to me. I mean, obviously, look, like, watching that scene, it's kind of like, well, Luke, you could have done that better. But for me, it's like, okay, this happened. Why should we care? What is the fallout of that? What, like, okay, Luke felt devastated with guilt, and he felt like it's all happening again. This cycle is repeating itself, and I'm not a legendary Luke Skywalker. I'm just a dumbass old man who ruined this kid's life, and he's just gone off on a rampage, and it tipped him over the edge to seize power. Yeah. And that is interesting to me. It's like, okay, this thing happened, whether or not I love it, fine. But what they do with it is what's interesting to me. And that's what I feel like 9 lacked. Like, the Rey and Kylo fight on the Death Star wreckage could be, I mean, it's really cool. But for me, I don't even get why these two are fighting each other anymore. And I know that sounds dumb, because it's like, yeah, okay, I know up here why they're fighting each other, but I don't feel it in here. I'm kind of like, okay, but you guys could just be friends now because you have so much in common.
I think that's the point. To be honest, I think that's the point.
Fair enough.
I think you are feeling exactly what they are feeling in that moment, which is they don't know why they're fighting. I reckon they have no idea why they're fighting. He's just bad and she's good, and so he fights her. And she's good and he's bad, so I'll fight him. And that's the moment where he turns straight after that battle, because I don't think he has any conviction about why he's fighting her. And I don't think she knows either. So I think the fact that you felt in here that you didn't feel anything, you didn't know why, I think is perfect, because I reckon that's exactly what they were feeling in that moment.
That is totally fair enough. And that's actually a good point.
And that's why I think it's, there's these moments, especially in 8 and 9, where you feel like you know, it's just you've just been kind of messed around a bit there. It's the lack of consistency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I like 9 because I don't know what else you could have done. And when I go down, this is where Thomas and I disagree, but it's like when you go down the route of what else they would have done and where Ryan would have taken it, that's why I'm happy with 9, because I'm like, I personally like that they brought Palpatine back as a big overall bad. And it concludes that fight of good and evil and finally defeats the big bad that's managed to come back after 9 movies. And then I don't mind everything they've done because I like it to the alternatives.
Yeah, can I weigh in on this?
Yeah, you go, man.
I really have to piggyback on what you're saying, Keenan. What you said was pretty much spot on to how I feel. Firstly, I think we all agree that in general the storyline or the whole arc was not planned and was not thought out. I personally think he wasn't going to bring Palpatine back. Because in probably your point, I don't know what you said, Thomas, actually now, but one of my complaints with 9, and I don't even know if I dislike it, but it is a thing to talk about, is that the whole point of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is the chosen one. Basically, it's about Anakin. It's all about Anakin, and he brought balance to the Force. Now, if he brought balance to the Force, for then that balance to just be unbroken again, or to specifically the big villain that he destroyed, his old master, he killed him, and he just comes back to life. That sort of feels like, well, it's sort of just like, all right, well, who cares about the other 6 movies? We're just going to bring him back. Like that sort of downplays the whole thing that we from 1977 that we knew about. All that 30-year arc, basically, that sort of downplays that. But in saying that, exactly what you said, Keenan, I reckon JJ had no other choice personally. And I know you disagree, Thomas, but I think he had no other choice because his plan was, I haven't spoken to JJ in a while, but from when I talked to him, his plan was so like Snoke is friggin' Plagueis or something. Like Snoke is the big bad guy. And I personally would have loved if it was Plagueis. I know everyone was talking about it. I think if JJ did all 3, which I don't necessarily think would have been the right thing. I don't know. But I reckon if he did all 3, we would have found out who Rey was in episode 8, right? And then we would have actually had a whole movie of getting to know her character rather than still finding out who she was. I think you touched on it before, Keenan. There's like you spend 3 whole movies, like 9 hours, and then you find out who she is, and you don't have any time to develop her character. You only get to find out who she is. And I think she was going to be Obi-Wan's granddaughter, and I think Snoke was going to be Plagueis, and he was going to be the big bad guy. And I personally wanted to see a friggin' throwdown with Luke in the flesh with Snoke. Like there was so much that I wanted to see, and by watching 8, it disappointed me. Yeah.
Okay, so what's our final? Where do we sit currently with Star Wars?
I am generally a very positive person. And I struggle to be upset about stuff. Like when I have the option, I'm like, I kind of feel like that was a bit crap, but I kind of feel like it was great. I'll just pick the great part. Because for me, Star Wars has to make me feel happy. There have been some times, especially after The Last Jedi came out, where I loved that movie and people hated it. And I actually just step away from Star Wars because I was like, for me, Star Wars is like a source of joy. Like I'm like, okay, I love talking about how much I love stuff. I hate talking about how much I hate stuff. And so
totally.
For me, I would say after this conversation, I dislike 7 and 9 less. Like I get what you guys were meaning and stuff, but there's no way that I can dislike stuff more. Like I only ever grow to love stuff, and that's kind of a personal choice for me, and that's totally cool,
Yeah, I'm definitely, what's happened has happened. I'm glad there's a break between 9 and whatever movie comes out next. On the Skywalker saga. I understand why they did everything, and I just wish the sequel trilogy had been a bit more consistent.
I agree.
I don't really like the prequels, but I think they were necessary. They had to tell that story because we already knew what was going to happen. And to be honest, I think they did a good enough job. There's just a lot of around it that we were like.
It was an incredible story. It was a really
that's the thing. He just shouldn't have directed the movies.
Badly.
terrible execution, terrible dialogue. We've probably got 20 seconds left. I'm sitting right now. I'm stoked that Clone Wars and Rebels is happening.
Yeah.
And, well, is currently going on, and then there's apparently more Rebels coming. That's super exciting. I'm excited to see where it all goes. And I think, like what you said, Thomas, I think I dislike 8 a little less after this conversation, which is pretty cool.
That's good. I'll take that.
So yeah, we're all kind of happy with it.
I still think it's the biggest problem in the 3. I think 8 is the glaring issue to me anyway, personally. Not that 9 was perfect, but...
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
All right, at least we've got to a point where we kind of agree that we're like, yeah, I still love Star Wars.
Yeah.
And we will continue talks getting a bit more into the galaxy at another point.
It was a good introductory, sort of shallow conversation, but we'll get deep.
Yeah. Facts. I feel that.
Thank you very much for joining me on this, and we'll see you again next time.